It's loading. There we go. Now we're live.
There we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a live edition of Pod by the Bay. I'm your host, Nathan Bond. Join alongside me, Robert Stieg, as we kind of instant react to USF head coach Alex Golesh taking the same position at Auburn. News broke earlier this morning that he is going to go to the Plains. And Stieg, it makes sense, man. Like it's freaking Auburn.
Yeah.
Like it's Auburn, man.
Yeah. I mean, when we were mulling over everything that was being thrown at us this past week, we kind of all came to a conclusion in our separate chat of like, there are schools where you don't really feel bad about being poached. I don't think anyone really felt bad when Willie Taggart left for Oregon. It's Oregon. You wouldn't feel bad if your coach got poached to Ohio State or Michigan, Auburn or in Florida, and frankly LSU and Ole Miss. Those are in the echelon of schools that you don't really feel bad when you lose your coach to them. It's like the rich win most times, and this was the time that the rich can always win. A program with a lot of pedigree, full winning history, full plethora of resources available to them at any particular moment. So, why not now, I guess?
Yeah, and like obviously things really kind of sped up Wednesday with the report that he had interviewed and had accepted the Arkansas job. Um, Obviously, that did not come to fruition. From my intelligence gathering, he was really pissed that it came out when it did. And I think that may have soured him on Arkansas. I think obviously, I mean, it is still Auburn. Like that's a blue blood among blue bloods, right? Uh, I think he still probably would have gone to Arkansas if it didn't shake out the way it did. Um, Real big like loose lips sink ships type of situation for them. And now they hired Ryan Silverfield, who amongst Memphis fans, probably they're okay that he's leaving, which is not quite a great sign. When you're making a coaching hire, when the other team's fans base is like, all right, whatever, good luck.
when the Munchkins are singing "Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead."
That's usually not a great sign. There's protests in Fayetteville already, or it's going to be happening, or has started to happen. Um, like, well, here we are, right? But I think Golish, I think he was as transparent as he could be in a pretty tough spot. Uh, when I asked him about it last night, like, sure, I haven't really had time to think about it. Wink, wink. Sure, he signed last night. If we're being completely honest, like he knew where he was going. We had a pretty funny interaction as I was leaving the stadium, and that was kind of our relationship for the 3 years that he was here. Kind of he said, "Man, I knew you were going to ask me that question. Maybe a little bit more colorfully than that." But I was like, "Well, who else was going to ask you?" We shook hands, told him good luck. Like when you triple your salary, and there's reports out there that he can earn up to $12 million a year based on incentives. Like USF had a really good offer. They're not touching 12, and it'd be CEO Rob Higgins put out a tweet earlier this week, basically stating we're going to be the best stewards of our resources. And I think not investing $12 million into a head coach is being the best stewards of their resources. Obviously, also on Wednesday, USF kind of came out that they're going to be like basically fully funding the revenue share starting next season. Like there are plans in place. This university cares about football. I think it helps to have a chair and a vice chair who like live and die by football, to kind of help navigate this new era of college football, college athletics. So we'll see kind of what the future holds. We'll do a hot board, like a true hot board, here in the coming days with Seth. But we did want to get on here and kind of, uh, instant react, kind of talk out our feelings. 3 straight winning seasons. You're going to a third bowl game. Obviously, it wasn't quite a distraction this week with a 52-3 win on senior night for Alex Golesh and the crew on his what inevitably turned out to be his swan song. It was a fun night. You kind of it was like a living funeral kind of sort of thing. Like, it probably Byron Brown's last game. He said he's going to play in the bowl game. We'll see if the calculus changes with Golesh not being there anymore. Obviously, the writing was on the wall that it was going to be Golesh's last game as head coach for the Bulls. So we'll kind of see where we go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it was the weirdest vibe. And honestly, like, in the grand scheme of things, shame on that guy from Arkansas. Whoever at Arkansas did this, because clearly it was not done in the way that either party would have preferred it to happen. I think both sides pointed a finger at each other. Ultimately, this is kind of the microcosm and the problem of college athletics nowadays is, news travels instantly, news travels fast and everything. And, what could have been a very nice and exciting, obviously the season didn't end the way that USF wanted to, but, for all of 33 of those seniors, for Alex Golesh himself, for everyone involved in the USF program, for that feeling of that game last night being, okay, where's, everyone was watching that post-game presser to see what Golesh was going to say about where he's going to be next year. There are obviously questions about where Byron was going to go, and you get the word salads about, being proud of the team and all this other stuff. But ultimately, all those people tuned in at night to hear Nathan Bond of the Bay Area Examiner ask Alex Golesh directly, where are you going to be next year, coach? And that's a shame because, those 33 seniors worked really hard to, get to where they are. They bought into Alex Golesh as a head coach, as a leader. And for it to go out in this bitter note rather than a sweet note, just it feels wrong to have it go out that way. It was a very fitting ending for the Alex Golesh era. Putting up 52 points, creating a bunch of turnovers, creating a bunch of havoc plays defensively, huge explosive plays offensively. Byron Brown looking as fluid and as as good as he had been, setting that 3,000, 1,000 yard mark for the 12th time in FBS history. Like, everything that you could have wanted out of that game, maybe conference championship appearance, but that's beside the point. Everything that you could have wanted was there, but the entire time it was just, our Ponderosa section, our private section for our Discord was filled with people talking about where's Golesh going to go, who's going to be the next coach. It's like, let's forget about that for like 3 hours and just watch football for a little bit. Let's do that. Yep. Let's enjoy incredible plays by Byron Brown, havoc plays by that defense. But it sucks that that's the way it goes, but that's the business right now, baby. Like, you can't, there is no off time. There is no, let's wait for the news to come out. It's, can you get there first? Can you be there? And can you be the first person to break the news? And unfortunately for that guy at Arkansas, whether that was intentional or not, soured the entire situation for Arkansas and USF. You took down 2 ships with 1 shot. And I don't think you meant to do that.
No, that was some inadvertent friendly fire, I would think. And, Golesh did say, none of it was true. Definitely interviewed. It's not like he just interviewed for Arkansas, Oklahoma State, and like Auburn. Like, there were some others out there for sure, and that's what you're supposed to do. So I can't begrudge him. Again, triple my salary, I'm on the first thing smoking out of my current job, no matter how much I love it. And when you get to go to one of the quintessential college football programs in history, like you have to do it. It's not like, I think what really kind of stuck a little craw in a lot of folks, heads is like, Arkansas, really? They haven't been relevant in when was Darren McFadden? Was that 2007? Like, they haven't really been relevant in a long time. And so it's like, that doesn't really make sense. You're going to go 4-8, 5-7, 6-6 in the SEC and not really have a chance, or you go to a blue blood like Auburn, who has shown, maybe not recently because it's some horrific hires by them, that they can still win. I mean, they have won a championship within, I mean, it's been 15 years at this point, but they have won a national championship. They've competed in a few others since then, or at least one other, the Jameis Winston Florida State year. So like, there's a path to success there at Auburn that has not and likely will never be at Arkansas. So when those precious few opportunities do jump up, you have to take advantage of it. Don't blame him one bit. I'm not really too concerned for him on not really recruiting that area. He recruited Georgia, recruits Florida. Auburn, I think, is going to get an injection of a lot of transfer portal talent, some coming from the Bay Area. So be prepared for that. But it's going to be that's just kind of how it is at this point. For USF, they're looking forward. They've got Kevin Patrick lined up as the interim head coach for the bowl game, wherever that may end up being, and we'll kind of go from there. It truly felt like Byron Brown is not. He may play the bowl game, but it truly feels like it definitely won't be at USF in 2026. Either he's takes the NFL draft route or finds another program at a P4 level who will pay him. I know Auburn's got a pretty exciting, decent quarterback in Ashton Daniels, so we'll kind of see how that kind of shakes out. But I mean, a 1-year rental for Byron Brown at a P4 school where you've seen him be able to compete against some of those SEC programs and have some success. It'll be interesting to see what P4 talent all across the board at every position for Byron Brown in this offense could look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna switch our gears onto USF for a second. I mean, the cupboard was going to be changed regardless going into next year. They're 33 seniors graduated, a lot of seniors, a lot of high contributors were going to be leaving. It's, again, the unfortunate nature of the current era of college football. That doesn't mean that all of them are going to leave. There are some guys that are probably going to stick around. And, Byron, for all intents and purposes, was one of those guys that stuck around after Jeff Scott got fired, and Alex Golesh convinced him to stay. So there might be some guys that might, convince the new coach to stay. A lot of guys are probably going to want to hear that out, because you'll hear, a lot from the portal. There's constant tampering. Let's be completely honest. And it happens throughout the entire year. Happens after football games. Hey, talk to this guy after the game for a little bit. See what you feel or anything like that. So it happens. And no big deal. We're all just trading phone numbers at the end of the day. So, some of these guys might hear all that and say like, oh yeah, I've got options, but sometimes all those options are not the options that you want to stick with. And so there's a lot of noise and a lot of things getting thrown out there. So some of those, if those USF players currently at, University of South Florida know what's good for them in the nicest way possible, they will at least hear out Rob Higgins, who I'm sure, while also interviewing many of candidates already, is also probably sending some messages, him and Derek Brooks and a few other people, talking to these current players and these current recruits saying, hey, here was the news. This is me reaching out to you. Here's my line. Here's my number. If you have any questions, please let me know. Be happy to help you out with this. And we'll figure out where we're going to go from there. We'll keep you in the loop as much as we possibly can. we got to do our due diligence before, but we also understand where you're coming from because a lot of these guys do commit to the coaches rather than the programs now. Schematically, it makes the most sense too for that. So USF isn't at a disadvantage here by any stretch of the imagination. USF is probably in the norm of almost every other school in the country at this point, and that's perfectly fine. You've got all the resources, you've got that max revenue sharing, like you mentioned. It's not like USF is this deplorable, plague infested school at this point. Like it's still a very top option for a lot of players and ultimately a lot of coaches too. We're not going to get ahead of ourselves as far as the hot board or anything goes, but this is a sexy job. There's a lot of money being tossed around and invested by the university. That interests coach. You're getting max revenue sharing at a group of 5 level. That's going to interest a coach. You've got university-wide alignment from the top down to the very bottom, and you've got the support staff needed to make this thing work. So, whoever is going to come in next is going to be basically in the same situation that Rob Higgins was a couple months ago. You've got the bases loaded, and a guy throwing a meatball down the middle. You have the easiest grand slam of your life if you could just make it work. And that's all that the next coach has to do. Make it work.
And you kind of going through it, obviously a lot of dominoes fell today with John Summerall taking the Florida job, Ryan Silverfield taking Arkansas. So there are, the top 4 teams in the American Conference now have openings, and it feels like USF obviously got some green and gold colored glasses on here, but it feels like USF is still in the top spot, like financially, where they're kind of sitting. I think Memphis truly kind of just got sick of Ryan Silverfield, and they're glad to have them off their hands. Obviously, you still have to worry about FedEx money, but I think North Texas was a Eric Morris kind of driven thing. Tulane's always going to be aggressive. They've nailed their last few hires, so that's always going to be an issue going forward. But it feels like USF is the top G5 opening currently, and it's not particularly close. I would give probably Tulane probably the solid second spot, and then everybody else is maybe a tier or 2 below them. So kind of seeing where the options shake out going forward. Obviously, I think Willie Simmons is going to get his name thrown around at FIU. I mean, you win 7 games at FIU, like that's pretty phenomenal. I see some local people kind of I don't want to even dare to drink, but like Anthony Beck's getting mentioned by local folks, and Anthony Beck has a great relationship with some local media members, and I'm sure he appreciates them putting his name out. So that's kind of where we need to kind of draw the line. Like Anthony Beck's not getting this job, guys. Just full stop. Just not happening. Not an option. There are too many other good coaches who have coached in college for Rob Higgins to waste his first hire on Anthony freaking Beck. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah.
And we welcome in Seth Varnador. Who
did you say first hire? What's going on here?
Well, we welcome in.
I'm sorry.
Seth Varnador comes in after an excruciating drive. Apparently, it feels like he drove across the country over the last couple of days.
I have.
So
somewhat.
So Seth, thanks for hopping on here after shaking the sleep out of your eyes. Obviously, Alex Golesh left. There are multiple.
Oh yeah, did you know that
table.
yet?
I read the headline.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's all you really need at this point. So obviously, Alex Golesh heading to Auburn. Seth, your initial reaction? Obviously, it kind of permeates with your coverage with Florida and how things have kind of shaken out there. And it seemed like maybe he could have even been an option at Florida before they settled on Summerall.
Better, I think Joseph Brennan in the comments, better than Arkansas. Like somewhat on the Golesh side of it, a somewhat performance hasn't really indicated, but I'd say a somewhat premier job, like a pretty good job. But I think you'd feel better a little bit at USF if your coach leaves for Auburn than leaves for Arkansas, because they have some money they can spend. They can be pretty good. So, unfortunate, obviously, to lose a coach, but I think it's a good time. It seemed like they were willing to make big time investments and are willing to make big time investments going forward. So, great signal to future candidates. It's probably going to be like this until you either find the right guy or get in a better conference. So this can't be too shocking. But I think this is a really good time. Golesh did a really good job of kind of resetting the level. From when he got the job, they were obviously had been really terrible. A little proof of concept for other people. Hey, you can come in if you can recruit. You can come in and win here pretty easily. Didn't get over the hump to kind of get that final bit, but I think kind of showed to other people, hey, this is a job you can go and win at, and win at a high level if you're a pretty good coach. I think he's a pretty good coach, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in the SEC. But on the USF side, I think they're really well positioned. They're probably the best job in the group of 5 and positioned to move up. You got the stadium coming, and they should be able to make a really good hire.
Now, from what your feelings are, I was kind of talking about right before you came on, like USF's probably still positioned to be the top G5 position going into this coaching cycle, with Summerall leaving for Florida, Silverfield leaving for Arkansas.
Is that official?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I didn't know. Has an announcement been made?
Well, I mean, Florida hasn't. I don't think they've
Okay.
officially announced it, but yeah, that's seemingly a done deal. Per reports from the national media,
They're not going to enjoy that.
No, it's not going over well. But I mean, he's just a good football coach, so I'm not entirely sure where that will translate. They hope that's
too similar to Billy Napier resume wise, but we could. That's a different show. Like that's the issue. If they hired him after Mullen, everyone would be happy. I think if they hired him after McElwain, everyone would be all right. But yeah, that's a different show.
From your view, is USF still kind of positioned as the top program in G5, like moving forward?
Yes, I think so. I mean, they've got money to spend. And there was no coincidence that the Golesh stuff to leave comes out, and then immediately after comes out, it's like, oh, well, by the way, USF's going to spend up to the cap in the revenue sharing. That nobody else is doing that. I think there's some Power 5 teams or Power 5 schools that are worried about spending up to the cap. USF's like, we're spending up to the cap. Even John Summerall at Tulane has talked about how much more USF spends than him currently, and it's like $10 million. USF spending around $10 million according to people. So double that. You only got to spend $3 million. Was it $3 million? Is it a year or what? The conference has set a lower limit of what you have to spend, but it ain't close to $20 million a year. I can tell you that. So somebody should be able to come in here immediately if they understand how to work the portal, put a really good team together. Make the playoff, unless that format gets totally butchered coming up, but they'll probably have a spot because if not, they'll get sued. Make the playoff and put together, a bunch of wins and maybe make a move to a bigger conference or whatever the next step is. But somebody should be able to come here and win a lot of games.
Now, I know I'm kind of going to make you do this kind of live. Gut reaction, hot board, top 3 names that pop to your head right now.
I've got a whole hot board I could just throw up. If you want to do that.
I don't know if you're ready for it, but hey, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, he wasn't napping. He was grinding.
He was grinding film, grinding tape.
Let's see. I do have a whole hot board here. Let me see if I can make this go. All right. This is Seth Varnador's officially unsourced. I just want to say that. I have no sources. I'm not Nathan or Steve or Colin. This is an unsourced hot board. This is just my vibes, who I like, names I think would be interesting, and then different categories. Okay. Must-haves. Last time, these have changed from the last time we did this hot board, which included Alex Golesh and was the only one. Let's go ahead and say that from last time. Only person to have Alex Golesh on the hot board. The next USF coach must-have. This one still remains the same. Ability to identify, develop, and recruit at a lower level. This one has changed. Understanding of NIL and modern roster building. This one has also changed. High-level offensive background. I don't think you can win with defense in this conference.
Fair.
I'm not gonna. I mean, maybe you can't. Defense is all about having really good players. So unless you just totally maximize recruiting, which the NIL, which you may be able to, I think you've got to have a really good offense. Then head coaching experience, obviously preferred. You don't want to have somebody start on the job training, but you can get if you get one of these really good coordinator names. I think it's worthwhile. So here we go. It's a lot of names, you guys. So I just want to. This is a lot. I'm going to throw a lot of names up there. This was a little bit stream of consciousness. So here we go. These are the different categories. Let me get the.
Oh wait, Seth. Do you want to talk about your credentials for this and why you're the foremost expert in this?
Like my
Tell them that we talked about Alex Golesh as a candidate before he was hired.
I did. I the only one with Alex Golesh on the hot board. He was in my coordinator section, which I will have a large coordinator section here as well. All right, so here we go. Current FBS coaches. Has Bob Chesney been hired yet?
No,
he's still there.
Okay. If UCLA does not hire Bob Chesney and Penn State doesn't hire Bob Chesney, I think he'd be worth a call. He makes like $800,000. So I went and looked it up the other day. His base is like $750. So you could, he might make the playoff. Seems like he's on a really high trajectory. Probably would be more of a rental type guy. Now maybe he loves, maybe he likes water skiing or something and jet skis. So maybe he stays. But I think you should go after him if he falls through some of his other places because you could probably triple his salary very easily. Dan Mullen, I think, is a name that will get brought up just with ties to the state of Florida. Probably still getting paid a buyout, so maybe doesn't need too much money in terms of salary. Not sure how he does in the NIL era. Got a bunch of transfers, UNLV, did pretty good, but recruiting wasn't his strong suit, but if you put him with the right general manager type thing, I think he'd be all right. Sean Lewis was on this list last time. He got hired as Colorado's offensive coordinator. What he did at Kent State was wild, and he's done a good job at San Diego State as well. Really good offensive guy. Would be interesting. Would kind of continue the no-huddle stuff. Willie Simmons was a guy that was also on this list last time. Left FAMU at the time. I think he took a coordinator job, right? Or was it just running back's job at Duke and then got the FIU job? Yeah. And they've made a bowl game, so they've done really well. If you want to continue the Tennessee pipeline, Jerry Mack would be a guy. I think they're 7-3 or 8. They've had a pretty good year at Kennesaw State in his first season. He was the running back coach with Steeg's Jags previously, but before that was with Tennessee. They run the same offense. They were pulling from the same pool of GAs the USF was to hire their coaches. So same kind of guys. GJ Kinney is a guy that has not had a great year this year, but their offense is still top 25. They've had a really good run of offensive football there. He seems like a guy that's just on the cusp of being a big name in these coaching hires. He's kind of the next Eric Morris, I think. Maybe hard to get him out of Texas, but he hasn't had a great year this year, so that'd be somewhat projection. Tyson Helton is the name that in the past I've kind of thought was a boring name and kind of the result of changing his offense and getting a good coordinator. But if you look at their record, they've been, 8 wins a year the last 6-7 years. So if you want somebody that's going to be a consistent winner, yeah, Texas State is part of the new Pac-12, so that might be difficult to get him to move. But again, you've got probably more money possibly. New Pac-12 is just another G6 conference. It's not. In my opinion, it's not anything special. Jason Eck is another name. Probably going to get hired at Wisconsin at some point, possibly. He's a former Wisconsin offensive lineman, but really good coach, really good offensive coordinator and play caller. He'd be fun. Big guy, former offensive lineman. Would be interesting. Great with the media. Probably be great on a pod. So he would be interesting, but a really good offensive coach as well. So current lower level coaches. All right, so Kerwin Bell is going to be on every single list I ever put out. So
just be prepared for that.
If you're a really good offense, obviously knows the state of Florida, recruits the state of Florida really well. Has 3, I think he's got like 2 or 3 top 100 transfers from his Western Carolina team in the portal right now. So could probably bring some pretty good players with him. That may get mentioned again later when I get to the coordinator section. Mike Jacobs at Mercer is a guy that's worked his way up. I believe he's a former offensive lineman for Ohio State. Late 2000s or late 90s, early 2000s, played for Jim Tressel. So if you want to get Jim Tressel in here for another podcast like you did with Golesh, Mike Jacobs might be a good name. But his career winning percentage is really crazy. He's worked his way up as a head coach from lower levels, and Mercer has them, I think, top 10 seed in the playoff, 1AA. Andrew Ort is a guy from Harvard. Again, they made the playoff as well. They won the Ivy League. I think they got the first at-large bid from the Ivy League. Really good offense. All these guys have like top 10 scoring offenses in FCS football, by the way. Brett, I don't know if it's Vigan or Vegan. Montana State was apparently a candidate at Oregon State. Was possibly going to be a candidate at North Dakota State previously. He played there. So he's a Northwestern guy. So it may not be, he may not be a guy but it seems like he's willing to go. Montana State has been really good on offense the last few years and has turned into one of the better teams in that lower level. And Kobe Cartel is a guy who kind of is on here. They had a really good offense this year. Stephen F. Austin. They've kind of risen up the last few years in terms of record, made the playoffs this year, are seeded, and he won a D2 national championship at Texas A&M Commerce, I believe, previously. So Kerwin and Colby have both won national championships at the D2 level and have worked their way up. These other guys have just won a ton of games at a lower level with good offenses. So I don't know if any of them will be considered, but if you want to go you got to have a head coach and you want to get somebody kind of the next Signetti type guy who's just been winning and winning, these are the kind of guys you could go after. This is going to be an extensive list in terms of guys that are playoff contenders, coordinators. Hey, fellas, would you like a little Matt Patricia?
God, no, sorry.
I
can't do that, man. I can't.
I know I knew everyone was going to groan for a little Matt Patricia. Super engaging, really smart guy, but yeah, I don't know. But the pencil's cool when you're really good, and they're really good at Ohio State. Hartline would be an interesting one. He's a guy that's up for a lot of head coaching jobs. Really great recruiter, obviously, and great developer of receivers. I think every one of their, or not everyone, but I think like 3 of their top 4 receivers are from the state of Florida. So he comes down here a lot to recruit. Really good recruiter. That's kind of his thing, dynamic recruiter. He's the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. I don't know if he's really the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. But he is in title.
Let's be real.
Yeah. He is in title. And he's kind of a guy he's been mentioned as a candidate at Penn State, and his name keeps getting mentioned by people. He's probably soon to have a head coaching job, and probably a really big one potentially, but he hasn't had one yet. So he could be an interesting guy to go out and get. You'll probably recruit very well. They'll bring some of their Ohio State magic down, I'm sure. Both of the Indiana coordinators are interesting. We mentioned them last week, whenever at some point, maybe a couple weeks ago when the Arkansas stuff first started coming out. they've both been with Signetti his whole kind of time rising up. So you don't know what's them, what's him, but both their units have had really good seasons, and it seems like they're kind of guys that are primed to take a job. Colin Klein, these next couple seem like they're really on the precipice of getting big jobs, but they haven't yet. And maybe you could kind of snake one of them with your location, your investment, and that kind of stuff. Colin Klein seems to be the next guy at Kansas State if they ever get rid of Kleiman. He's going to be a candidate for all the kind of schools in that old Big 12 area. It seems like he was a big Oklahoma State candidate at one point. And Kansas State is kind of just hoping nobody hires him. At least their fans are. Every time they dodge that bullet, they have like a little Twitter celebration. So really good offense. Obviously at Texas A&M, former player. Would be interesting. Glenn Schumann is a guy that has apparently been up for some big time jobs and just hasn't found the one to take. But maybe you go off, you go hit him with he makes $2 million a year, I think, as a coordinator now. You'd have to pay him quite a bit. But he would seemingly be a coup because people have been trying. He was, I think, a finalist in North Carolina last year or previous. And there's been a few other jobs where he's been a guy that, so he would be interesting.
Yeah, he makes a little over $2 million, which is about $500K less than what Golesh made in 2025. So
they're going to have to, depending on what they want to do. And that's, we talked about that previously. It's kind of like, all right, you lose your coach possibly, but is it better to extend this coach and spend a lot of money on your coach, or just say, hey, we're just going to put that money in the roster and hire with whoever and and play the next guy about the same? I don't know. Maybe they're willing to up the investment on both sides. Mac Leftwich is a guy who's at Texas Tech now. He was previously at Texas State with G.J. Kinney. Obviously, they're doing a really good job at Texas Tech. He's a really good. His offenses have been really good. I think he's came up through the Incarnate Word, kind of that crew that went through Incarnate Word, I believe. So he's a young guy, really good offensive coordinator. Could be interesting. Will Stein is another guy that's been up. His name's been thrown around with big time head coaching jobs, but hasn't taken one yet. Would probably be worth a call. Offenses have been really, really good at Oregon. Ben Arbuckle just had a year at Oklahoma, but they're likely to make the playoff. The offense has not been great. Now, they've had some injuries and things like that. So it seems like he's a pretty good coach, and the guys are getting open. It's just not happening. And he was really good at Washington State, so there'd be some projection there for another young offensive coordinator. Alabama's got Ryan Grubb and Kane Womack, which I know I think a lot of people are kind of thinking Kane Womack if he doesn't get hired by Arkansas, which is a possibility. He was a head coach previously at South Alabama and did a pretty good job. And it was seen as a coup when they hired him as a defensive coordinator. And that was the time where everyone's like, G5 coaches are leaving and they're all going to become Power 5 coordinators. But he could be an interesting name.
Yeah. For Kane, I guess the only big opening left for him right now is Ole Miss, right? So Arkansas's taken. I guess you can go the Memphis route, but is that such a big jump? I think Kane makes a decent chunk of money as well as a DC at Alabama. So, man, I think that's my top pick so far of the options. I do love Mac Leftwich at Tech. That'd be an interesting one. Will Stein, obviously, but I think Kane Womack, if we were going to rank this people so far, and I say so far, Kane's number one for me.
Likewise. To me, this list is probably, or this category is probably where USF would probably want to go. That's just my personal opinion. The current sitting head coaches, they're nice names and everything like that, and they have that experience that we all just so desperately look for. But I think if you're going to try to make a big splash hire and make the moves to make it an even splashier hire, wink, wink portal, this is probably the direction that you want to look in. I think you could probably steal some top end talent from someone who's going to leave from one of these rosters.
Yeah. And Shannon Dawson is a guy that's name's been thrown around a bunch just to finish off this list. Was apparently up for some American jobs last cycle, didn't take them. And the other thing I think with a few of these guys is they very well, especially the kind of Texas and that region guys, could very well be candidates in North Texas. So you may see those guys in conference next year. And I would guess Tulane, now that Summerall has officially been hired by Florida. So just saw that pop across the old timeline. So Tulane is open now as well. So, all right, then the last part of the list here, other coordinators or position coaches that I think could be fun. I was going to add more to this list. This part's not quite done, so we can expand as we're going. Cade Bell, obviously, with his familiarity and his ability to recruit the state of Florida. He's got a bunch of Florida guys at Pitt. I don't know how many he'd bring with him if he came. But the guy that was the leading passer in I think 1AA, or at least his conference for sure. Was it Western Carolina last year and is in the transfer portal and was from the state of Florida, played at Miami Northwestern, Teron Dickens. So I think if you have a Bell as the coach, you have a chance for him as your quarterback next year, because I would imagine you're going to be replacing your quarterback as well. Buster Faulkner is a guy that's kind of worked his way up, was previously at Arkansas State as a coordinator, and then went to Georgia as an analyst, and then has been the Georgia Tech offensive coordinator the last few years under Brent Key, and has done a really good job. He would be an interesting name. He seems to be a guy that's on the rise and is either destined to get a head coaching job or a big-time coordinator job. Jason Beck at Utah has done a really good job, and he's done good jobs at his previous stops. I think he was at Virginia. Had been with Bronco Mendenhall, I believe, kind of tied to the hip, and then this past year went to Utah. I don't know if he's a guy that's kind of a state of Utah kind of guy that's kind of staying out there. It seems like he's had a lot of his career in that state, so I don't know if when he stays out west. But he did have time at Virginia and was really good when they had those really good offenses and made the Orange Bowl. He was involved. Kirby Moore, Kellen Moore's brother, is the Missouri OC. He's done a really good job. And seems like he's a guy that's on the rise, either again to get like a big time coordinator job and make a ton of money, or a head coaching job. And Blake Baker's similar. Blake Baker played at Tulane, I believe, so he may be a candidate at Tulane when they come open. But that's the initial list. It'll expand as we think about it. Oh, wait, hold on. There's one more section I forgot. The out there. These are out there. You see, I had 3 and 4. I didn't. These are kind of, I don't know about that. Could happen. He's a weird guy, I guess, but Bobby Petrino is a really good football coach.
Motorcycle enthusiast.
Yes, and also loves motorcycles. So maybe he wants to be more towards, like the Blue Ridge Mountains areas. He likes to ride the trails or something. Maybe he likes being out there. Gruden apparently is not happening. So we've been told Gruden is not going to be considered. So I didn't waste my time putting his name on there. But he would be in the out there list. Bill Clark seems like he wants to get back into coaching. Was really good at. I guess the question is, are you trying to hit a home run, or are you trying to hit a double that gets you into a power conference? Like, do you want a steady hand that's just going to keep winning games? And, hey, maybe with the resources, this guy can be really good and we can win the American. And, hey, now we're just we're an adult program. Or do you want to take a swing and try to hire the next big thing and a guy? So I think if you're looking for a steady hand that will kind of win games and possibly, you're an adult, get seat at the adult table kind of deal, Bill Clark could be an interesting one. Obviously really good at UAB, brought them back from the dead and left for, I think, medical issues, but it seems like he's ready to coach again. Now UAB is open, but I'd imagine there's a little bit of animosity there because they did not extend his coaching tree when he had to leave. So he would be an interesting one, and just in terms of a steady hand, knows how to coach football. Hasn't been, I don't think, super. I think he's been out since the NIL portal era really got going. So that would be kind of the question with him. But a really good coach that could probably set you at a nice steady foundation with the ability to win a bunch of games and probably contend for the playoff. But now that's the true end of the hot board there.
So here's kind of where I'm kind of thinking, right? So I feel like in this era of college football, you maybe want to think a little short term right now. So the G5 head coaches that we had, like the Dan Mullins, the GJ Kennys, that group of players or coaches, it feels like it's obviously more apt for them to bring their guys in to get that boost, like we saw with Signetti going up, like the lower level G5 schools coming up to USF, bringing their guys. I think it may be a little bit of a harder sell for like a Kane Womack to be like, hey, you guys want to leave Alabama to come to Tampa? Like that's a hard sell. So obviously USF has a massive senior class that they're going to have to replace, plus anybody else who transfers out. So you've got to make up that massive gulf and talent difference. Are you looking for a quick hit initially and then hope that their recruiting prowess kind of grows? Or are you going to want to keep the steady kind of guy who can just recruit? Maybe next year you're 6-6, 7-5, kind of struggle busing it, or maybe get that quick hit influx because frankly it's a gettable conference with the amount of coaching change in 2026 for this American Conference. How would you guys feel? Like, what would you prefer?
I think you've got to maximize. It feels like you've got to maximize your win now window, because it is all kind of gearing towards a big split, right? So you don't want to. I don't think you want to kind of feel like, all right, we're gonna build this thing foundationally. I don't know if you can do that anymore, right? That was kind of the big sin. I know nobody wants to hear about Florida, but that was kind of the big sin with Billy Napier. As he comes in, it's like, all right, we're just going to build it here. That's not how it is anymore, especially the G5 level, because if you have a really good player, you're probably going to lose them next year, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got to come in guns blazing, I think. Now you're going to have a lot of money. What's nice is if they can get the next coach hired relatively soon, nobody can go in the portal until the beginning of the year. So you've got times you have so much more time to recruit your own roster, which will be big. So maybe you can get some guys to stay if you hire the right guy. So if you hire one of these bigger names or a guy with some cachet, maybe he can get some of these guys to stay, especially if you're going to be spending up to that $20 million cap, and spending a significant portion of that on football. You'll have money to spend. So, there is you can get a guy that can bring a bunch of dudes with him potentially. Or, if you hire a guy that's been working in the Power 5, he's recruited a lot of these guys. So you'll be able to kind of reach out and do that as well. So, to me, I think you got to try to win as fast as you can. I think that's what one thing Golesh did that was really smart. And it was interesting. I kind of covering both teams. I kind of would juxtapose Golesh's approach and Napier's approach. Golesh said from his opening press conference, we're going to be as good as we can, as fast as we can. And Napier was kind of like, we're going to build this thing from the ground up. Well, Napier got fired. Golesh is on to another job. So I think Golesh's approach is the one to take now. You got to try to win as fast as you can, because if you don't, if you're bad, your players, it's kind of tough. The G5 level, if you're bad, guys are going to leave. If you're good, guys are going to leave. You're perpetually rebuilding. So you'd rather rebuild and win a lot of games every year than rebuild and lose. Like there's no building really.
Yeah. I mean, Rob Higgins has made his tagline pretty known of all gas, no brakes. I don't think that they're, as Seth, as you alluded to, I don't think they're screeching for a double here. Candidly, I don't think that that's probably in the cards. I think they're going to be looking home run, grand slam, top of the line, big splash hire as best they possibly can. Obviously the pedigree, the background that Rob Higgins brings to not just the Tampa Bay area, but just football in general. Coupled with Derek Brooks as your COO, who I'm going to boldly assume is going to have some sort of say in this. They have the connections to get USF to have a conversation with everyone, with anyone, and whoever they want. So they shouldn't have a shortage of home run options available to them. I think that there's a lot of really good options that you brought up, Seth, throughout that entire
I listed almost every available football coach, so it should be somewhere. It should be somewhere on there.
Yes, which is fun because I mean, let's be honest. Like, there are probably going to be some candidates of coordinators in the NFL that might want this job. Whether or not they'd actually get it is another thing. I mean, you have the entire repertoire of football, college, and professional kind of at your fingertips here. But yeah, you did basically list I think if we scrolled through our Discord from the last 3 weeks, you probably listed almost every single person that has been brought up as a serious option, which is hilarious because that's probably truly what the hot board looks like for Rob Higgins. So I think,
I'm available for a Zoom.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Cheaper than Turnkey.
Cheaper.
Apparently some ADs don't listen to Turnkey.
Yeah.
And Turnkey will not work with them again. Apparently, allegedly.
Allegedly, but
that's a different search that just wrapped up. Allegedly.
Yeah. But I mean, this job is sexy, man. Like there's so many good options that are available. The carousel's never going to stop spinning. So, you always need your Rolodex of coaches that are ready to go at any particular moment. This at least allows us to, do what I love the most, which is to talk about coaching and then be able to bring up who's going to happen in the offseason, who's going to get hired for coordinator positions, transfer portal targets, recruiting targets. Like, we get to restart everything that we just did, like, for the last 8 months. How fun is that, Nathan? All of that recruiting work that we did, Seth, all those guys that we talked about, gone.
I enjoy hot boards, so
yeah.
I didn't do anything. I didn't do any of the recruiting stuff. So
yeah, I love a hot board. Seth, so like of those guys you mentioned, who's like the tippy top? Is it Bob Chesney?
I mean, that would be. I think that would be a home run, right? It would be seemingly a guy that he seems like a guy that if he had a couple more years, or like Penn State would be hiring Bob Chesney from USF if Bob Chesney was at USF. It seems like he's also apparently the top guy at UCLA, but I don't. It's apparent. It's possible you could offer more money, shockingly, in terms of total investment at USF than at UCLA. Possibly, I don't know. It depends on if they get that. If they get, I guess, that private equity money in the Big Ten, but
right.
UCLA does not have a ton of money to invest. It seems like USF's going all in. So, but I would think that would be the guy. He's kind of the next. He seems like the next big thing, but he's just not quite there to where some of these bigger jobs can take a big swing on him. But he seems like a guy he won at Holy Cross. He's won. He's kind of continued the winning at James Madison.
Right.
Very well might make the playoffs. Especially if they're considering, coaching, the coach being there. If he's still there, they might make the playoff. But he would be an interesting one. I didn't think he was a possibility, and then I went and looked up how much he made, and he's got a ton of $50,000 bonuses. But I think last year his base is pretty low. Last year he ended up making like $750 with a bunch of bonuses. He'll probably make closer to $8 or $850 this year. That's doable. You can give him a nice hefty raise and lower his tax, and then no state income tax. So maybe a gigantic raise. So I think he would be an interesting one, just in terms of now. He probably wouldn't be long unless maybe he really likes it down here, and maybe he's the guy that's going to lead the program for a long time. He's a young guy, but would be worth a swing. I think he seems to be the next big thing.
He's 48, head coaching record 131-51, won 5 Patriot League titles at Holy Cross. He's 20-5 at James Madison. kind of picked up where Kurt Cignetti left off and kind of kept it going. And I think you see a lot of times when
and Kurt Cignetti took a lot of those dudes that made the job good to Indiana. So it wasn't like he just could take over the team that was already built. He had to kind of rebuild it quickly.
And he did a damn fine job of doing that. Obviously, like that's a pretty good option going forward. I think Sean Lewis is super interesting. GJ, I mean, some of those Texas guys, I don't think you're ever going to get out of Texas.
There is, especially with North Texas being open. I think there's going to be a lot of those guys, and then Tulane's kind of not too Texas far off. Like that's kind of so with both those being open, I think some of the Texas names will be difficult to pull, and maybe candidly, you don't want them as much. You'd rather a guy that's coached in the Southeast or Florida and kind of there just in terms of recruiting base, but. That would be. I think it's very possible North Texas comes in and your work. I would think now USF seems to have the most money out of all three for sure, but you're definitely going to be pulling from the same pool as North Texas and Tulane. Like this, it'll be interesting to kind of see how those three shake out in terms of what they're able to get there, because USF seemingly has the most investment, but Tulane is in. Obviously close to Texas and a talent-rich state itself. Obviously, North Texas is in a really talent-rich state, and USF's in a very talent-rich state. So, really good recruiting bases. People showing you can win there, willing to invest. But it seems USF is number one in terms of investment. So, it'll be fun to kind of see how these three unfold.
Yeah, like I said, I think Kane Womack's still my number one, but you're not getting a bunch of Alabama guys to come to USF. Like that just maybe like the fringe guys, but not anybody kind of note. So I kind of do want that quick pop of talent influx because I think it does help stabilize the transition. And it's not just like an aberration, like it has happened consistently where you bring your own guys in who know the system and it starts to work for you. Obviously, Alex Golesh didn't really do that year one. So it can happen that way. So this is going to be a fascinating kind of hiring cycle for Rob Higgins and company because obviously it's a major. He has a women's basketball coach to find. He's got soccer to find. So there's I think it may kind of help tell us what he thinks and values going forward in this hiring process as an athletic director, CEO of athletics.
He's not going to go in order of opening, first in, first out.
Yeah, he's going to hold off and get the women's basketball coach.
We have to wait till we hire the women's basketball coach, guys.
Yeah, that's priority. That's a bigger priority here. Yeah, I just think my someone asked in our Discord, what's the timeline here? At first, my inkling was like, well, you want to do this as soon as possible, right? Duh. But it's not going to happen before Wednesday, which is National Signing Day.
Yeah, he's probably just punt on National Signing Day.
Yeah, which is fine because at this point, with the amount of change that has happened at major schools, the obvious thing is some of these guys are going to just get an offer from their new school and then sign at that school. So primarily for USF fans, Moody, Alabama wide receiver Josiah Dozier, I would imagine is going to get an offer here pretty soon. But there's also guys who will end up playing basically musical chairs with a different coach from this cycle because their coach got fired, or want to see who's going to take what position to potentially see what's out there and wait for all of the music to stop before they make their decision. Because you don't want to pull the trigger too late or too early that you miss out, but you also don't want to pull it so late that you're now kind of stuck at the dance with no prom date. So recruiting has been punted at this point. We all know that. We all expected that when the news of Arkansas being interested. We expected this to kind of happen. So do what you can to hold on to what you have, but also understand that it's not like there's not players to join the USF football team. there's going to be plenty of players that want to join the USF football team one way or another, depending on who ends up coaching. So, work quickly, but don't work so quickly that you don't, you don't turn over all the stones that you need to. But I mean, chances are Rob Higgins already has probably the short list of 4 or 5 guys. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2:26 p.m. on Sunday, November 30th. I wouldn't be surprised if we've already had a couple of conversations with an agent or two, maybe setting up Zoom calls as soon as they can this week, fitting in with all the other scheduled openings that are up right now. And, they'll work as quickly as they can at this point.
Colin keeps messaging, hire Kevin Patullo, #GoBirds. Does anybody know what that means?
I mean, when you can hire an alumni who's absolutely cratering a exciting and fun offense, you got to do it.
So somebody asked a question here, Robert Diedrich. What do you think the salary range is going to be? Have you discussed that as I was coming out of my slumber earlier?
So I know they offered Golesh a decent chunk of money. Obviously, not SEC money, but it was fairly close to the base of what he's getting at Auburn. Definitely competitive. Now, with a new head coach, you're not going to spend that exact same amount of money on a brand new head coach, but I would reckon they max out at 5 if it's like a really good head coach. Like if it's a really good option, I think you max out at 5 and go from there. This is just my speculation. I haven't talked to anybody around the search when it comes to that, but given that they were gonna offer Golesh right around 7, like 5 is a good number, and I think you can do that. You have the 1.5 from the buyout from Auburn, so you've got that to play with. You add that plus the 2.5 that Golesh was making, you're at 4. I mean, if you want to be super competitive, like I think Kane Womack, I think you need to double his salary. I think he's right around 2. I think Brian Hartline, those guys at Ohio State, they're right around 2. Like some of the really good Power 5 conferences, Power 4 conferences are right around 2. You've got to double it to make it make sense. And I don't think they're going to be afraid to spend money to get the right guy in, and they're definitely not going to be afraid to spend money to get the right roster in, and kind of go from there. That'd be my guess. No more than 5.
I think if you're in that range, you can hire somebody really good, especially with the ability to make that kind of money. I'd have to see where that ranks kind of on salaries, but if you're in that range with also the offer of, hey, you can come in here and win immediately because we're going to give you the money to spend in the portal and you can make the playoff, that should be something where I think you could maybe get a guy that's been waiting around for the right job, that's kind of one of these coordinator type guys, big time coordinator name, and go out and get him, because that would be that's a lot of money to throw around at somebody.
Yeah, $5 million would be top 50 in the country. So Matt Campbell is at 47th.
There you go get Matt Campbell
at $5 million. Exactly. Willie Fritz was 4.5. Tony Elliott 4.4. So if you go to like 3.5, you're now in like the Dan Mullen, Rich Rod, Satterfield, Clark Lee kind of space. Golesh with 2.5. So he's top 60, and then Golesh's new contract, just base level at 7.4. He's now in the top 30, basically in between like Kenny Dillingham and Marcus Freeman. Like,
so you can go get somebody somewhat proven, possibly. Like if you want, you can try to go poach somebody. That's the thing. If you're going to spend big money, Matt Campbell making 5 is wild.
Yeah, I mean he's been there for it's got to be close to a decade at this point, right?
He's been there a while. So interesting.
I mean, you could do some stuff. Obviously, like I think Broncos, a Utah guy like that. Bronco Mendenhall makes 2. but Sean Lewis makes 1.8. GJ makes 1.5. Coach Ken, now that'd be interesting.
Oh, God.
They haven't been quite as good this year, I don't think.
Give him
Eck makes 1.15.
like you can double that.
Can I someone joked about this, but like, what are the things that you don't want out of your next coach here? Because I have like two things like come like completely top of mind. Yeah.
Can't be over 50. Sorry.
Yeah, no old guys.
Sorry.
Old guys is pretty.
Oh, one old guy.
A singular old guy who is very young at heart.
One old guy.
Yeah. I mean, like, because the name, obviously with all these SEC openings here, there's obviously those guys that were fired at their previous positions that are now available. And if you've been fired in the last 2 years, I don't want that stink. Like someone mentioned Billy Napier, and I'm like, it's hard for, like, if you're going to go into this like all gas, no brakes mindset, it's really hard to be like, we're going to invest into USF football, but we just took a guy to coach this football team that didn't win in the SEC, which is hard to do, but that's not the right mantra to me. I don't love the idea of hiring a dude who couldn't get it done.
I think to me, and you guys can tell me if you think different. Now, it doesn't have to be the head coach necessarily with it, but offense in this conference, I think, is what wins games. There's not enough great players on defense to just consistently win defensive battles. Look at the teams at the top of the conference. They all have pretty good. Tulane is the one where their offense isn't elite this year, but everybody else has a really good offense. The other name I didn't mention because in terms of the option stuff, but if this guy was going to tell you he wouldn't run the option, because I don't think you want to be an option team, but some of the other stuff they do, Drew Cronick, the OC at Navy, I don't think people would enjoy that, but he was a lower level head coach. Mm-hmm. He was at Mercer before the Mike Jacobs guy I listed and was really successful as a head coach, but I don't think you want to go in that option direction. But if he's willing to not be an option guy, he'd be an interesting name as well. But I don't think you got to make sure. I think it's so much easier to find skill level guys or skill talent guys. I think you have to have an offense that emphasizes that, and you've got to be more offense based, I think, in this conference, because defense is so tied to talent level. You can still have a really good defense because you'll probably be the most talented team if you invest your money right. But I just don't think that's where you're going to win games, especially on if you make the playoff, your defense isn't going to, beat Georgia or anything. You're going to have really good offenses. So to me, I skew to the offensive side of things, especially. Yeah.
Drew Cronick is 51, so he's out.
He's out. Sorry, Drew.
But interesting is very interesting. Has Blake Harrell done enough to maybe get a look? That'd be really funny to poach him from ECU.
No. That's just off the top of my head.
I also I know we sometimes you got to be careful about making sure you're not Goldilocks-ing this too hard. And this might come as a shock. I don't really want a guy who might have had a controversy in the last 10 years. I don't want to say someone in particular.
So you're out on Willie Simmons, guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of out on Willie Simmons.
That's fine.
Not for any bad reason. I think Willie Simmons would be a fantastic decision in the long run. I kind of get the ick every once in a while. The only exception to that is Ed Orgeron.
Oh Lord.
But you got, one way or another, you've got to be careful about who and what they've had going around them for a while. Again, people learn, people change, people develop better habits and everything like that. But this person should be a thriving member of this Tampa Bay community and love the Tampa Bay community and all of the people that are in it.
And there is a comment here. What about a controversy 11 years ago? Because I believe it did happen in 2014.
You're right. It did happen in 2014. Didn't it? Then that's fine because
And he's safe.
yeah, that was
You're
more than
back
a
on the
decade
board.
ago. Yeah, you're back on the Willie Simmons train. Yeah, but Seth, the Kane, the defensive coordinator thing. I think you could probably get away with a really good defensive coordinator as your head coach, and pair them with a really good offensive.
I think you've got to have a guy you can't have Will Muschamp coming in here. You can't have that guy that's going to come in. That's kind of my thing. You can't have a guy that's going to come in and be like, we need to sit on the football and win with defense. I don't think you can win with – now, maybe you're so talented that in conference you can, but out of conference you're not going to be able to win with defense because they're going to have better players than you. So, I would think you got to be offensive forward, I guess would be the way to do it.
I'd be interested in doing kind of the opposite of what Golesh did, which was in many ways of doing the opposite of what Golesh did, which is, hey guys, I'll handle the defense. I will make all the defensive personnel and decision making and yada yada yada. You, my offensive coordinator, congratulations, you're the head coach of the offense. You make all the decisions on that side of things, and we work together, kind of like how Alex did with Todd Orlando. Every decision for defense came from Todd Orlando. From recruiting, I mean, obviously Golesh was the final, pin, but like Todd Orlando made almost all of the decisions there, and I think that's an interesting route to go. If you're really trying to zig while everyone else is zagging,
you're saying promote Todd Orlando. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, promote Todd Orlando. But the whole like everyone in this conference is choosing like a different offense to zig through. You have 3 different triple option teams. You've got like 2 variations of air raid. You've got whatever is going to happen at Tulane, Memphis, and North Texas. It might behoove you a little bit to be like, yo, we got to have someone here that can stop 8 different teams in conference offensively. Because you're if not, you're going to rely on scoring 45 points a game for every single one of your opponents, which is possible, basically doing what North Texas did this year, where you have to just score more points than the team. And we joked about it for a long time. That was just like, it doesn't matter what USF's defense does because you're just going to outscore them. But I'm putting that in the back of everyone's mind of, hey, that might be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah. It's going to be tough to get somebody who's so well versed in all of the different like defensive styles to stop every single offense.
Right.
Like I still love the Kane Womack thing, but like I'm very intrigued with just F it, we ball, let's score 50 offense. Obviously, that's the more exciting brand of football. And I think Seth, you can't. Defense is only going to get you so far in this league.
Yeah, it's to me, it's this is not a league of defense. The best teams consistently have great offenses. You look at, even Army won it last year. They had a really good offense. They didn't necessarily win with their defense. You can win in different ways. You can run different offenses, but it seems like offense forward is the way to go.
Right. Or we can go special teams.
No,
we're good special teams.
No,
he's on.
Obviously, as I think we're kind of wrapping up here. A lot of USF staffers probably already in Auburn or on their way to Auburn right now. Obviously, Andrew Warsaw is attached to the hip with Golesh, so he'll be at Auburn. I would reckon the director of scouting, Alex Fagan, who looks like he was already on the private jet or going to the private jet with Golesh. So I would anticipate a decent chunk of this offensive staff to be going with Golesh to Auburn, and then kind of using that Auburn SEC money to maybe get some decent options to kind of backfill. I don't anticipate Todd Orlando going to Auburn. So we'll see kind of how that kind of shakes out going forward, but just anticipate a whole mess of staff turnover. Not quite like Lane Holding, the entire offense staff
Allegedly.
hostage. If you want a job, you have to be on the plane.
Allegedly.
But pretty close. What a psychopath.
Yeah. I mean, Lord, this is how there's a lot of. It seems like there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out in the next few days about him. That's how it always goes. I'll be interested to see anything comes out behind the scenes on every time a coach leaves. All the bad stuff comes out, so we'll be interested to see if anything comes out in Tampa.
Oh, I wonder where we can get that information.
So
Seth, if only we knew.
I don't know.
Life's greatest mystery.
But
so, Nathan,
yeah, but
final thoughts.
It was a fun 3 years. Definitely righted the ship. Definitely got some of the dry rot that was within the program out. I think the program's definitely in a better shape than it was when he got here. It was fun. I'll always enjoy him yelling at me after Alabama. That was always fun. And I really never said a bad word publicly about him. So I kept my promise on the podcast.
You stayed true to your Twitter promise. Yeah.
You're welcome.
We could eulogy this and say fondest memory. That whole thing. We could all dress in black real quick. Give our final words to the Alex Golesh era. Because I mean, for you, I know your fondest memory was getting yelled at Alabama.
I don't know. Last night was really funny too.
Yeah. When you told us that, I had the full expectations of. Yeah, that's probably about right.
Yeah, I mean, that's up there for sure. Yeah, it's between getting yelled at and then getting put on like a watch list by Barstool for it, and then last night, game recognized game, and I appreciate that from him.
Absolutely.
I don't even know what happened.
Oh, buddy, you missed it. So leaving the press conference, I took a picture out on the field, and then I was walking out, and he's walking by me, and it was kind of like, all right, have a good night. And he like looks at me and is like, because obviously I was going to be the one to ask him, are you going to be the coach at USF next season? Like, just point blank period.
Yeah.
And he walks by and he's like, I knew you were effing going to ask me that. I knew you were going to be the one to do it. And I was like, well, who else was going to? And smiled, shook my hand. I wished him luck and kind of went on our way. I'll never see that man again in my life.
Well, that's nice.
Unless, USF and Auburn face off in a bowl game of some sort. Comes full circle for you.
That'd be neat.
That would. I'll always remember after beating Syracuse and him saying we just beat that ass, didn't we? That's always. I think that's if any Auburn fans want to know what you're kind of getting, like that. that and also look up every tweet about Byron Brown from I would say October of 2024 to December. When was the bowl game?
It was Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. So December from October 1st to December 24th. Look up, just search Byron Brown and look at USF Twitter the entire time, and that's basically what you can kind of expect. The good and the bad.
Yep.
I think on the bowl games were both really fun, in different ways. The bowl games were fun. Obviously scored a ton of points. The Boise State game this year was great. Florida game was crazy. Some really good high points. The Byron Brown injury stuff last year was annoying. But like you said, overall, reset the level. Got the program back in a good place. I think showed proof of concept for future coaches that, hey, you can come here and win. Especially because the route he took from the hot coordinator name, kind of coming in here, winning. If you got a good plan, if you're ready to go, you can come in here and win the game, or win a bunch of games. And then, one score games are kind of coin flippy. So unfortunately, you're on the wrong side of both coin flips this year in conference, or else you'd be playing for a conference championship. So, team played really, really well. And this is year 3. We're kind of like, all right, this is the year that it kind of takes off, and for the most part it did. So really good job by him. Obviously sad to see a good coach go, but always a fun time when you can spend and invest and you got smart people in charge. Hopefully they make the right decisions, and this train keeps rolling. So got you back on the right track if we're keeping the train analogy going.
Beautifully said. Now let's fire up hot boards. Let's speculate.
Yep.
Oh man.
We'll be definitely keeping our ears to the ground, making sure we're providing the best and / most accurate chances. So we'll go from there.
Beautiful.
Hope you guys enjoy your Sunday, and remember the good times.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to sleep.
All right.
All right. Be safe. Have fun. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.